I didn't smash anything, didn't raise my voice, didn't demand answers. I just froze in front of that glowing screen and read line after line I was never meant to see. He called her baby. She called him mine. Just a few words, but heavy enough to crush the part of me that still believed in loyalty, in promises, in the woman who once laid her hand on my chest and swore she'd never hurt me. And the cruelest part? It wasn't some stranger. It was my best friend, the man I'd grown up with, trusted like a brother, the guy I never thought would stick a knife in my back. We'd played ball together in high school, gotten into trouble side by side, and he was the one who stood next to me as best man on my wedding day. That betrayal burned hotter than everything else. I didn't ask for explanations, because no excuse could ever make betrayal clean. I grabbed my keys and wallet, walked straight out of the house we once called a home. No slammed doors, no dramatic goodbye, just the sound of my boots on wood and the silence pressing against my ribs until it nearly strangled me. If you've ever stood in that exact moment where your whole world collapses but no tears will come, you'll understand. I didn't even shut the door behind me. Left it half open, like the house itself could decide whether to keep me or let me go. The sun was dropping low, painting everything in gold, but none of it touched me, not that night. My boots hit the steps like they belonged to a stranger. Each step felt like treason, and I couldn't tell if it was hers or mine for not seeing it sooner. I climbed into my truck and sat there, hands on the wheel, engine off, staring at that porch where we used to drink coffee on lazy Sundays. The light flicked on inside. Maybe she was watching. I didn't turn to check. Didn't care. There was nothing left worth saying. So I drove. No destination, no playlist, just the hum of old tires and a heartbreaking in real time. No tears yet. That storm would come later, in the hours too quiet to outrun. The parking lot behind a strip mall is where I landed. Couldn't tell you how I got there, and I didn't care. I checked my phone. No missed calls, no messages. Silence can bruise harder than shouting. I scrolled to a guy from work, Drew. Not a buddy, just a lunch break talker. "You got a couch I can crash on?" I typed. "Yeah, come over," he sent back. "No questions." His place smelled like microwaved pizza and detergent. He tossed a blanket, pointed at the couch, went back to his game. I lay there in my boots while the television popped off war sounds. I stared at the ceiling, not thinking, just existing. For the first time in years, I felt invisible in a way that almost felt safe. At 2:13 a.m., I deleted her number. Not revenge, not a stunt. I just didn't trust what hearing her voice would do to me. Her contact photo was her laughing in the snow, cheeks red from cold. I used to think that smile belonged to me. One swipe, gone. Like dropping a glass you were never meant to keep whole. I set the phone face down on the floor, as if turning it away could turn off the memories too. Drew snored. The world kept spinning. Me? I was just some guy on a stranger's couch trying to unlove a woman who lied without blinking. And the weight doubled, because it wasn't only her I lost that night. I'd lost him too. The friend I once trusted more than anyone. The man who stood beside me at the altar. In one blow, I lost them both. No sleep, no tears, just a clock that wouldn't quit. By 6, I was on the road. Didn't tell work, didn't tell anyone. A jacket, a toolbox, half a granola bar. That was the inventory, plus the version of me still shocked she did it. Miles stacked up. City skyline fell off in my rear view. My eyes went dry, but never spilled. Pain settled like a stone in my gut, heavy and quiet. I crossed a state line and didn't slow down. Somewhere around hour 7, I pulled into a gas station in a town I couldn't name. In the bathroom mirror, I met a man who'd given everything and lost himself anyway. I didn't feel ready to start over, but staying the same wasn't an option. Northern Arizona felt right the second the air hit my face. Dry, honest, no questions. Population maybe 2,000. Gas cheap. No one knew my name. That was enough. I rented a small room above a closed bookstore. The place smelled like old paper and rain-stained wood. It wasn't hers. That was all that mattered. Next morning, I found a diner with chipped mugs and coffee that tasted like asphalt. I ordered blackened eggs I barely touched. The waitress didn't pry. She topped off the cup and let me be. Kindness, without questions, is a rare thing. It'll make a man breathe again. That same afternoon, I saw a handwritten sign nailed to a crooked fence. Help wanted. Construction crew. Cash pay. No questions. It felt like a lifeline. I walked up, signed my name, and they handed me gloves and a hammer. First task: rip down an old porch. So I did. Nail by nail, board by board. Each swing of the hammer felt like tearing lies out of my own foundation. The wood cracked beneath me, dust rose into sunlight, and for the first time since I left, I felt something shift inside. The days started at 6 sharp, dust in the air, hammers cracking. No one asked where I came from. No one cared. Perfect. Sweat replaced thought, sledgehammer over memory, simple math. At lunch, I'd sit on the tailgate of my truck, chewing bread, watching the sky go from blue to gold. One guy finally asked, "You new in town?" I nodded. He didn't ask more. That silence was worth gold. The small things started saving me. The smell of sawdust each morning, boots crunching gravel, a nod from the old man at the hardware store. I cooked again. Nothing fancy: eggs, soup, toast, meals made for one. Still, it felt like progress. I bought a used table at a garage sale, 4 chairs. I only needed one, but I left the others in case. In case of what? I didn't know. Nights were slow. I'd sit on the back steps with a cold beer, looking up at a sky too big to hold pain. No grand clarity, just one breath after another. Eventually, I noticed I wasn't waiting for her voice anymore. I couldn't remember the last time I replayed her laugh in my head. Memories faded like an overplayed song. I didn't delete old photos, packed them in a box, shoved it deep in a closet. Stopped digging for pain like it owed me something. And slowly, mornings came where I'd catch myself smiling at nothing. Coffee steam, light hitting the blinds, stupid little things, they felt real. After lies burned down your house, real is the only thing worth holding. One afternoon, I caught my reflection in a cracked mirror nailed to the side of a shed. For a second, I didn't know the man staring back. The beard was thicker, the eyes harder, but there was something steadier in them, presence, not pain. That fragile version of me, the one who begged silently for answers, clung to memories like lifelines. He was gone. Not dead, just finally laid to rest. And I wasn't mourning him anymore. I walked different after that, straighter, like I no longer owed the world an apology for surviving her. Healing isn't a finish line. It's like leaving a room you never realized was locked. And that day, stepping out into the dust and noise, I knew I wasn't trapped anymore. Across from the lumberyard sat a little coffee shop. Dusty floors, chipped mugs, country music, humming low. I started going there most mornings. Not for the coffee, it was awful, but for her. Her name tag said Rachel, hair pulled up, half smile, that looked like she didn't care if anyone noticed. She didn't ask much, just poured the same order and left me alone. One day, I asked her name, and she smiled, like she hadn't expected anyone to. We talked 5 minutes, nothing deep: the weather, the ugly paint on the front door. Still, I walked out feeling lighter than I had in months. Not hope, not attraction, just ease. A reminder that not every woman is a storm. Some are quiet mornings. The next day, I skipped coffee. Told myself I was late, but truth was, I was scared. If she smiled again, I might start hoping. And hope is dangerous when you've trained yourself to feel nothing. By day 3, I gave in. Walked through the door. Same chipped mug, same sad music. Rachel didn't say much, but when she set my cup down, there was a sticky note on the rim. "You okay today?" I stared too long. Didn't answer. Just nodded once. Drank slow. And for a second, it wasn't the coffee that warmed me. It was being seen. That note rattled me more than any cruel word ever could. Cruelty, I knew how to handle. But kindness makes you drop your guard, tempts you to believe maybe this time will be different. At night, I still heard her ghost, the woman who lied while kissing me goodnight. That kind of wound doesn't just scar. It leaves a voice that whispers, "She'll hurt you too." I hated that voice, but part of me listened, because when you've been burned once, even candlelight feels like fire. People saw a quiet man who worked hard and kept to himself. What they didn't see was the guy checking locks twice, not out of fear of thieves, but fear of memories crawling back in. They didn't see me flinch when my phone buzzed, or how I deleted photos before I got attached. Her betrayal had rewritten me, not just losing her, losing trust in myself. Then came Friday. Power went out on site, so we got off early. My truck seemed to steer itself toward the coffee shop. Rachel was closing up, apron off, hair down. She smiled. "Didn't think I'd see you this late," she said. "Didn't think I'd show up," I answered. Her laugh was quiet, real. It caught me off guard. She asked, "Want to help me kill a slice of pie? Hate eating the last one alone." I almost said no, but I didn't. We sat in that empty shop, 2 chip plates between us. She told me her husband died 5 years back in a car wreck, left her with 2 dogs and a quiet house. I didn't talk much, just listened. For the first time in a long while, someone's pain didn't scare me. It made me feel less alone. After that night, Rachel stayed in my mind, not constantly, not obsessively, just enough to notice the quiet around me wasn't so heavy anymore. It felt like maybe I wasn't just surviving. Maybe I was starting to live again. But every time I caught myself smiling, that voice inside rose up. "Don't be stupid. You know how this ends." It reminded me of the cold silences, the unread messages, the way betrayal doesn't scream, it just walks past your trust without looking back. I hated that voice, but it had kept me alive, even if lonely. So now I stood between 2 men, one guarding his heart like glass, the other wondering if maybe it wasn't fragile anymore. Sunday rolled around. Used to be the worst. Too quiet. Too many empty chairs at the table. But that Sunday was different. The town held a flea market by the church. Rusty tools, candles, knitted things no one really needs. Rachel was there. She waved like we'd known each other for years. We walked without hurry, barely talking. She stopped to pet every dog. I bought a mug that read, "Today is enough." Corny, but it felt right. We ended up on a bench at the edge of the field, watching kids chase bubbles, listening to the wind move through cottonwoods. No grand moment, just peace. And for once, I didn't feel like I had to prove I was okay. I just was. The next few weeks settled into a rhythm work. Coffee, short talks with Rachel about things that didn't cut too deep. Books we never finished, roads we wanted to drive, meals we cooked just for ourselves. Simple, steady, almost too gentle, and that simplicity made me nervous. Peace was foreign to me. In my world, calm usually came right before something fell apart. At night, staring at the ceiling fan, I'd wonder, what if I ruin this? What if the damage runs too deep for anyone to reach? I braced for her to vanish, to say the wrong thing, to prove the voice in my head right. But she didn't. She just kept showing up kind, consistent, quiet. One night, brushing sawdust off my boots, I whispered a truth I'd been dodging. Maybe I'm the one who doesn't know how to stay. The thought hit harder than I expected. Later, Rachel reached for my arm, just a light touch. I flinched, not enough for anyone else to notice, but enough for her. She let go gently. No questions, no pressure. I drove home feeling like a coward, not because of her, but because of me. Even after all this time, I was still guarding against blows that weren't coming. Sitting in my truck that night, engine off, watching condensation crawl down the windshield, I finally admitted the truth out loud. She didn't keep breaking me. I kept breaking myself, trying so hard never to be broken again. Blaming her had been easy. This was harder. This was the real work unlearning fear, and it scared me more than losing her ever did. The next morning, I didn't clock in at work, didn't make excuses, didn't call. I just sat still, poured coffee, and let the steam rise into the cold air. For the first time in months, being still didn't feel like hiding. I walked the town aimlessly, letting the sun hit my face. Bought a sandwich I didn't even want, just to hear the words for here or to go. I sat on a park bench, chewing slow, watching strangers live lives I wasn't part of. And strangely, I didn't feel left out. I felt present. Around noon, my phone buzzed. Rachel. No questions, just, everything okay? I stared at the screen, then typed back. I think so. I didn't run today. She would never know how much that meant. That week, I did something I hadn't in over a year. I bought real groceries, fruit, fresh bread, a jar of strawberry jam I used to keep for weekends. Not survival food choices. That felt new. That night, I cooked pasta with garlic and olive oil. Nothing fancy, but the smell filled the room with a warmth I hadn't felt in a long time. I ate at the table. No television, no phone, just me and the sound of being alive. When I washed the dishes, hands deep in hot water, steam rising to my face, I caught myself smiling. Not because I was healed, but because I was here. I started saying yes more often. Not to big things, no dinner parties, no long trips, just the small stuff. A guy from the crew asked if I wanted to grab a beer after work. Normally, I'd dodge it. That day, I said sure. We sat on the tailgate of his truck behind a bar, griping about the heat, about the new guy who couldn't measure straight. Nothing deep, but it felt normal. One beer, then I drove home with the window down, wind warm on my face. Somewhere between that stoplight and my front door, it hit me. I wasn't checking my phone anymore. I wasn't waiting for her name to appear. That part of me had finally gone quiet. Saturday afternoon, sun heavy in the air, I pulled into my driveway after a long day sanding stair rails. Hands rough, shirt stained, body tired in the honest way a man should be. Then I heard a car creeping up behind me. Too close, too slow. I turned, and there she was. Her. The woman who left me bleeding inside while smiling at someone else. She stepped out like the ground might not hold her. Eyes wide, hands trembling, presence smaller than I'd ever seen. We stood in silence. No wind, no sound, just the weight of everything we never said. She finally spoke my name, Adam. Her voice cracked like she wasn't sure it still belonged to her. I didn't answer. Keys still in my hand, sawdust on my shirt, my heart quieter than I thought it would be. She looked drained, not from travel, but from something deeper. "I've been trying to find you," she said. "You just disappeared." The word almost made me laugh. She had made me invisible long before I ever walked out that door. She rushed on, as if afraid I'd walk away before she finished. "A mutual friend told me you were in Arizona. Gave me the name of this town and a P.O. box. That's how I found you. It tracked, but it didn't matter. Then she pulled a photo from her bagus, smiling in sunlight that now felt like it belonged to strangers. I ruined everything, she whispered, voice breaking. Her hands trembled as she stepped closer. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed to say it. I'm sorry. I looked at her, the woman I once would have died for, and asked, calm and steady, why now? She stared at the ground, wiped her cheek with a sleeve. The man I left you for, he left me, she said. Then her voice dropped lower, raw and heavy. And the truth is, he wasn't just anyone. He was your best friend. I know how deep that cut goes. Saying it out loud doesn't clean it, but you deserve to hear me admit it. I only nodded. No shock, no judgment, just the confirmation I had carried in my gut all along. Her guilt looked real, voice shaking, hands restless, eyes carrying wreckage. But guilt doesn't rebuild what it shatters. I know I can't undo it, she said. I just needed you to see me one last time. And for a moment, I did. Not the woman from my past, not the fire that burned me. Just a tired person haunted by her own mistakes. You know, I said slowly, I didn't leave because I stopped loving you. Her eyes shot up, wet and wide. I left because you did. You stopped choosing me. Those words were heavier than any confession. She staggered back, covering her mouth, tears falling harder. But I wasn't standing in the wreckage anymore. I had already walked out. I could have asked why, could have demanded details. But I didn't. Not because I didn't want answers, because I didn't need them. Sometimes closure isn't found in explanations. Sometimes it's just closing the door yourself. I hope you find peace, I said quietly. Her face lifted, startled, like kindness was the last thing she expected. But I'm not the man who forgives like you used to. And you're not the woman I used to fight for. She nodded slow, each word carving deeper than blame ever could. Then she turned, walked to her car, and didn't look back. I stood there, watching her taillights dissolve into dusk. And I didn't chase them, because this time I wasn't losing anything worth keeping. I stepped back inside. Same door, same walls, same creak in the kitchen floor. But everything felt different, not because the place had changed, but because I had. I leaned against the door, closed my eyes, let silence wrap around me. No pounding heart, no chest ache, just breath, slow and steady. I walked to the drawer where I'd stuffed old letters, photos, scraps of a life I kept promising I'd sort through someday. One by one, I tossed them into a trash bag. No rage, no dramatic music, just paper hitting plastic. I wasn't erasing the past, I was refusing to carry it any longer. When I tied the bag shut, it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like space. The next morning came quiet, not the kind that screams loneliness, but a stillness that makes room. I brewed coffee, sat on the porch, watched the neighbor's dog chase leaves like they were worth everything. For the first time in years, my thoughts weren't about her. Not the lies, not the loss, not the questions without answers. They were about now. I thought about work, about Rachel's smile, the way she laughs like no one's watching, but always notices when I go too quiet. I thought about maybe texting her, maybe asking if she wanted to walk the flea market again. No pressure, no expectations, just presence. I wasn't in love, not yet, maybe not even close. But I wasn't hiding anymore, not from memories, not from people, not from myself. And when you stop hiding, the world starts to feel like it belongs to you again. I stared at my phone for 5 long minutes, not out of fear, out of respect. I wanted the words to be clean, Honest. No armor. No sarcasm. Finally, I typed, "Hey, if you're free sometime, I'd like to walk that flea market with you again." Simple. Direct. No games. I hit send and set the phone down. Didn't sit there waiting for dots to appear. I stepped outside, let the sun hit my face, breathed in air that didn't taste like regret anymore. When the phone buzzed, I didn't flinch. I didn't brace. I smiled before even reading it, proud of the man who dared to reach again. Her reply wasn't flashy. No emojis, no hearts. Just, "I'd like that." And somehow, that was perfect. We met by the kettle corn stand at the edge of the market. She wore jeans, no makeup, hair tied back like she hadn't tried to impress, but she still did. We wandered slowly, stopping at a booth of cracked vinyl records. She held one up and said, "My dad used to play this on Sundays." "Ever dance to it?" I asked. She smiled, "Only in socks." We didn't mention pasts, didn't touch old wounds. We just talked about music, mornings, and what kind of pie deserved a second slice. It wasn't a date. It was two people walking in the same direction for a while. She told a story about burning toast so badly the smoke alarm screamed, and her dog refused to step foot in the kitchen for 3 days. It wasn't really that funny, but the way she told it, with hands flying and voice rising, had me laughing. Not a polite chuckle, not a tired half smile. A real laugh that came from my gut, caught me off guard, and knocked the wind out of me in the best way. She looked at me, eyebrows raised, almost surprised. And I realized I was surprised too. I'd forgotten what my own laugh sounded like. We kept walking. No one pointed it out, no need to. But inside, something tight and old had finally loosened. Rachel reached for a jar of local honey. When her sleeve slipped back, I saw a thin scar on her wrist. I didn't ask. She didn't explain. Some stories live under the skin in silence. We paid and kept moving. At one point, our hands brushed. Neither of us pulled away. Not fingers locked, just close enough to feel each other's warmth. I didn't analyze it, didn't weigh it. I just let it be. And in that space between instinct and intention, I felt something rare, ease. We ended up on the same bench as last time, breeze moving through the cottonwoods. Rachel pulled a small paper bag from her tote, 2 muffins inside. "Split one?" she asked. I nodded. No fireworks, no soundtrack, just 2 people sharing silence and something sweet. Halfway through, she looked at me and said, "You're different than when I first met you. You're more here, now." She was right. I wasn't drifting back into ghosts anymore. I was sitting in the present, with her. That night I sat on the edge of my bed, elbows on my knees, room dim except for the lamp humming in the corner. And I whispered something I'd never dared say before. It wasn't all my fault. Not the betrayal, not the silence that followed. I wasn't perfect. I'd shut down too often, swallowed too much. But I hadn't deserved to be lied to. I hadn't deserved to be left like that. For a long time, blaming myself gave me a reason easier than admitting someone I loved chose to hurt me. But now I could hold both truths. I had flaws, and she broke something, both real, both coexisting. I didn't cry, didn't feel proud, just lighter. I switched off the lamp, lay back in the dark, and whispered, "You're allowed to move on now." And for once, I believed it. The next morning, I shaved. Not dramatic, no cinematic scene, just me, razor in hand, water running steady. The beard had been armor, a silent way of saying I didn't care about being seen. But that morning, I did. Not for Rachel, not for anyone, just for me. I pulled on a clean shirt, one I hadn't worn since before it all fell apart. And it fit again not just my body, but my life. Rachel invited me to dinner. Nothing fancy, just pasta and a movie that was probably terrible. Months earlier, I'd have said no not because I didn't want to go, but because I didn't know how to show up without armor. This time, I said yes. We ate on her couch, legs tucked like teenagers, pausing the movie too many times to finish it. She leaned her head on my shoulder. And for the first time in years, I didn't stiffen. I just breathed, stayed. Morning came soft. Her dog snored at our feet, sunlight crawling across the hardwood. I brewed coffee, fed the dog, let the quiet in one sound at a time. No rush, no fear, no performance, just morning. And that's when I realized healing doesn't arrive with fireworks. It shows up in small Tuesdays, in borrowed mugs, in silence that doesn't ache anymore. This isn't a story about revenge, or forgiveness carved in stone, or winning someone back. It's about peace, about learning to sit with pain without letting it define you, about creating space and finally deciding what to fill it with. I didn't win anything, didn't get payback. What I got was wholeness. And after everything, that was enough.